and welcome our beloved viewers to RTD's News English Edition. As usual, we'll begin tonight's news with the major and top highlights. Let's follow. Workshop on the information system of the labor market in Djibouti by the Ministry of Labor. And on the international scene, Karim Benzema wins the Golden Ball, Ballon d'Or, and joins the Fenton of Soccer's. Those were our major top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, received a written message from his counterpart Al-Ajili Al-Hassan Ouattara. In his message, the Ivorian President strongly condemned the terrorist attacks that targeted our military units in the district of Jojistin in the province. He expressed his solidarity with Djibouti, extending his sincere condolence and sincere sympathy to the government and people of Djibouti and to the families of the victims, and wishing a speedy recovery to the injured. The Djibouti delegation, led by His Excellency Mr. Ilyas Musa Dawale, Minister of Finance and Economy in charge of privatization, took part in the IMF and World Bank annual meetings in Washington, D.C. In the IMF Managing Directors meeting with the Ministers of Finance and governments of the Middle East, North Africa, Afghanistan, and Pakistan countries. The IMF's initiatives are aimed at mitigating, if not stemming, the combined effects of inflation and food prices which threaten to destabilize fragile countries. Some countries are faring better, particularly those that export oil, while others suffering from the deleterious effects of exogenous shocks, post-COVID-19 effects, war in Ukraine, higher energy prices, and etc., have a rather worrying outlook. The head of a delegation taking on the floor stressed that in addition to international crisis, Djibouti has the particularity of a small, fragile country, particularly vulnerable to climate change, but managed to sustain its development. The international crisis situation constitutes a threat that may ruin its efforts. Drought in the region, war in Ethiopia, complication in the field of international logistics because of uncertainties, a highly strategic sector for the Djiboutian economy. In spite of everything, Djibouti assumes its role as a strategic country in the stabilization of the region, which is plagued by multiple conflicts. Believing that this role confers a unique stature to Djibouti, Mr. Ilyas Musa Dawale asked for a special treatment to allow his country to preserve its stature and to continue its development. On a working visit to New Delhi in the Indian capital to take part in the 5th General Assembly of the International Solar Alliance, the Minister of Energy in charge of natural resources, His Excellency Mr. Yunus Ali Gedi, was received in audience yesterday, Monday afternoon, by Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General of the ISA, International Solar Alliance. The meeting took place in the presence on the Djiboutian side of the Ambassador of Djibouti in India, Mr. Isi Abdullah Asowe, and the technical advisor of the Minister, Mr. Mahdi Waberi Hassan, and the Indian side note the participation of the main collaborators of the Director General of the ISA. This virtual meeting between the Minister Yunus Ali Gedi and Dr. Ajay is part of the willingness of the Minister of Energy to make our country having a huge solar potential. Various programs deployed by this alliance to mobilize more than 1,000 billion investments in the world in solar photovoltaic by 2030 to allow the installation of a capacity of more than 1,000 gigawatts of additional solar energy. It should be noted that the International Solar Alliance, based in New Delhi and headed by the Indian Ajay Mathur, is a joint initiative launched by India and France during the COP21 for the purpose of an unprecedented effort in favor of solar energy. As part of its working visit to Djibouti, the Secretary General of the Organization of Digital Cooperation, Mrs. Demal Yahya, and members of her delegation were received in the landing station of submarine cables located in Haramus by the officials of this station. On the spot, the distinguished guests listened carefully to explanations on the capabilities of this station of Djibouti Telecom, which has made our country a regional hub of digital telecommunications in terms of regional and international connectivity. This event was followed by the meeting with the Director General of Djibouti Telecom, Mr. Mohammed Asowi, and his staff, during which the Secretary General of DCO recalled that Djibouti Telecom is a major player in Djibouti and in the region. She then presented the organization of DCO, its creation, its composition, and its roadmap. The two parties discussed ways of collaboration, including strengthening investment in Djibouti through the platform of DCO, playing the role of facilitator on behalf of its member states. The director of the D-Money company, Mrs. Hebo Mahmoud, recalled the genesis of D-Money and the objective of financial inclusion that the platform pursues by emphasizing the robustness of the services. The D-Money team made a general presentation of the platform. In the agenda of her working visits, a meeting with Djiboutian entrepreneurs was an essential step for the Secretary General of the Digital Cooperation Organization. Therefore, a meeting and exchange workshop took place at the CLE Center for Leadership and Entrepreneurship in Djibouti. This workshop brought together the center's manager and several members of the Djiboutian startup community, to which DCO gave them a presentation of the organization before giving them the floor to collect the needs and expectations of Djiboutian startups. The aim is to formulate proposals in which DCO will be heavily involved in the implementation by strengthening the Djiboutian ecosystem and expanding the community of DCO startups by promoting, among other things, an exchange of experience, but also by facilitating the movement of goods and services of startups. It should be noted that the mission of DCO is to enable member states to empower youth and entrepreneurs to accelerate growth across the digital economy and achieve greater prosperity by promoting common interests and collaborative digital transformation. Dema Al Yahya, Secretary General of the Digital Cooperation Organization, visited also yesterday, Monday, the University of Djibouti. At the head of her delegation, she was accompanied by the representative of the Ministry of Digital Economy and Innovation. Upon arrival at the university, she received a warm welcome from the President of the University, Dr. Jama' Mohammed Hassan, and his close collaborators. Discussions focused on ways to promote and establish the development of digital cooperation between the university and the organization. Thereafter, the delegation visited the African Center of Excellence for Logistics and Transport of the University of Djibouti, funded by the World Bank. During a meeting with the staff members of the center and researchers, the director of the center provided clarifications on the various programs of the center. For her part, the Secretary General of DCO presented the goals, objectives, and ambitions of the organization. She shared the vision of DCO, which is to have a collaboration between its member countries and to find potential areas to develop digital cooperation. To conclude, the Secretary General of DCO then visited the Digital Fabrication Lab, a place of creation, tutoring, and innovation, a place of learning and innovation. The Ministry of Labor, in charge of Formalization and Social Protection in collaboration with ILO, organized this morning a federation workshop on the evolution of the state of the information system on the labor market and labor migration in the Institute of Diplomatic Studies. The workshop was chaired by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Labor, Mr. Abdullah Ali, and was attended by the Executive Secretary in charge of the reform of the administration.
This afternoon. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here with you today in this validation workshop of the comprehensive assessment of the state of labor market and migration information system in Djibouti. In the last decade, Djibouti has shown an exceptional development with high level of investment in transport and port facilities and an average growth rate of 7.2% from 2015 to 2019. Like most countries in the world, this growth was affected by the COVID pandemic. Djibouti is one of the most strategically positioned countries in the region, bordering the Gulf of Aden and with a huge port. This also makes Djibouti a transit country for a significant number of migrants from the Eastern Africa region crossing to the Gulf of Aden. Hence, effective labor market policies, inclusive of labor migration issues, are critical for Djibouti. Labor migration statistics are needed to inform policy debates, but also for formulating, implementing, and evaluating labor migration policies which address the real effects of migration on labor markets and national development.
The National Agency for Persons with Disabilities signed today a partnership agreement with the Association Mediterranean Without Disability in the framework of creating an inclusive environment for children and youth with disabilities. The MSH addresses not only the countries that have geographical barriers in the Mediterranean, but also the countries that have just joined it symbolically, sharing and comforting with a culture that considers every human being as a supreme value, defending his rights and accompanying him in his personal growth and development within the company. For years, the MSH has been organizing cultural promotion activities both in Italy and abroad by organizing international conferences on the theme of disability in order to stimulate the developing cooperation and exchange of knowledgeable between different institutions and professional personalities from different countries, cultures, and religions to raise awareness among society, governmental institutions, and international organizations to promote ADKIT training, information, and provision activities. The Women's Sports Complex hosted a signing ceremony of a donation with the Ambassador of China in Djibouti. This ceremony was attended by the Secretary General of the UNFD, Ms. Madame Fatuma Musa, the Director of the Women's Sports Complex, Madame Fatuma Jama, the Ambassador of China in Djibouti, and his advisors. After the meeting of the two sides in the office of the Director of the Sports Complex, a visit was made to the complex. The ceremony was closed with the signing of a donation agreement between the Director of the complex and the Ambassador of China in Djibouti. After the signing, a gift was given and a family photo was taken. We have just learned the death of Mahmoud Adangiri, who joined his last heavenly home yesterday. Born on August 16, 1961, he was the eldest of the Adangiri family of son Khadija Lade and brother of the late Colonel Nasser Adangiri. Friendly and known by all, he was known for his integrity and loyalty. He commanded his team through the welcome, trust, and respect that he found with all. He always sent the image of an honest man who knows success and social association to the extension of his merit. We present our sincerest condolences to his brother Mahdi Adangiri and his two sisters, Farhiya Adangiri and Ilhan Adangiri, as well as the family Giri Hildid. Shifting gears towards the international scene, already in the hot seat after just 6 weeks, at 10 Downing Street, Liz Truss is bending but not breaking. In a televised interview on Monday evening, the British Prime Minister apologized for the decision of her new Chancellor of the Exchequer. The 47-year-old Conservative has also said she intends to stay in the office. Karim Benzema joins the pantheon of football. The French striker of Real Madrid trained in Lyon won on Monday the Ballon d'Or, which crowns an exceptional season. Let's follow.
Ballon d'Or after a dreamy season, the Real Madrid striker became on Monday the first Frenchman since Zinedine Zidane in 1980 to reach this consecration that Spaniard Alexia Putellas had obtained for the second year in a row. It is a brilliant revenge for Benzema, 30 and 34 years, sometime involved a striker who finally put everyone in agreement as for Putellas, 28 years, rewarded on Monday evening at the Theatre de Châtelet in Paris, despite the serious injury that made her miss the Women's Euro, long in the shadow of the Cristiano Ronaldo 5 Ballon d'Or, but finally winner of the 66th edition of the prestigious individual trophy. Benzema entered the pattern of his sport 1 year after the 7th title won by Lionel Messi.
Well, by this, our beloved viewers, we finally conclude this edition. Thank you for being with us and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Thank you.